Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, today I want to share with you all the different Amaryllis varieties that I've been growing this year. Also take a look at some that I grew in previous years and kind of compare them. I would really love to hear about your experience with these varieties and others. I can't tell you how much joy it's brought me to see your Amaryllis, whether you tag me on Instagram or you send me a direct message with the varieties that you're growing. It just brings me so much additional joy just to hear about your experiences and to see which varieties you're really passionate about. I'm still looking for a peach Amaryllis with pink edging. I'm not really sure if such a variety exists, but if you know about that variety, please let me know in the comments. And after we do that, I want to take you down into my basement to show you an experiment that I'm conducting. It's basically a different way of doing dormancy than I've ever done before. And also, I want to talk about an experiment that I'm going to conduct with cut Amaryllis and to get your thoughts on whether you've noticed this really interesting phenomena that I've noticed here in our home. And then why not talk about thrips while we're at it? Because guess what? For the first time ever, I had a bulb have what I think is thrips. And so I want to show some pictures of that to you and get your thoughts. So let's start with the pretty stuff first. Let's take a look at all these varieties. So this first variety and the last one that's bloomed here in our home is called Yellow Star Amaryllis. It's a single amaryllis. Now it said on the website that it was yellow or a citrusy green. And it's really interesting because depending on how the light hits it, it can read yellow, but to me it reads a little more lime green than anything else. I'm not sure how it's looking in the viewfinder. What color does it look like on your screen? Would you say it's cream, green, or yellow? But what was really cool about the way this one bloomed, and I'm hoping you can see it, is that it put up 3 stalks at once, all with slightly varying heights. So it really looks like this beautiful bouquet just on top of one bulb. This is only one bulb, and there's a 4th stalk right here that's coming up. So I feel like I really lucked out, not only in this variety, but just in the way that this bulb decided to bloom, giving me kind of this huge display that really I've never had a bulb do this perfect kind of variance in height, stepping down from each other. So I really feel like this variety, Yellow Star, is a must grow. So this next variety is called Sweet Nymph, and the Nymph Amaryllis are generally much shorter than kind of your standard Amaryllis varieties, something like a Red Lion. You know, it's usually a little bit on the taller side. But it's a double amaryllis. It's really great for cutting. It lasts forever in the vase. And you know, I wasn't sure I was in love with this amaryllis when it first bloomed. But let me tell you what I noticed. I have 2 of these bulbs and I gave one to my mom. They started blooming in November and they're still blooming. These are the same exact bulbs that you saw in that first video I did where I just showed how to plant an amaryllis and I just talked about how passionate I was about them. This is the same bulb still blooming. All 3 of those bulbs got 4 bloom stalks each. So I think if you like pink amaryllis, if you like doubles, if you like shorter amaryllis, and you're really looking for an extended show, you can't go wrong with Sweet Nymph. Now the next variety is so tall that it's kind of hard to get her there on the screen, but this one is called Flamenco Queen, and this one is so beautiful. It has not only streaks of red, but also speckling there on the petals. The petals are edged with red, and then it goes into this beautiful lime green throat, which has, once again, some, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it has some red there in the center also. And when I think about the Greek mythology of Amaryllis, and I think it had something to do with Amaryllis was waiting outside this suitor's door that she loved, and something happened, like she pierced her heart with a sword and then blood ran all throughout her dress. It's kind of a gross, weird story, but in a way, that's the way these Amaryllis look, as if someone was wearing a white dress and then they kind of had blood splatter all over it, but in a good way, if that makes sense. I hope I didn't gross anybody out by saying that, but the story of Amaryllis is really interesting. If you're into Greek mythology, you might want to look it up. But this is definitely, for me, a must-grow variety, definitely a bulb that I'm going to save and rebloom next year. So those are the varieties that are currently in bloom in my home, but I still have other bulbs that are going to put on additional bloom stalks. And actually right behind the camera is that windowsill box of double king amaryllis. That's a double amaryllis with beautiful, more of an orange-red color to their petals. So if you like blue-red, I don't think I would recommend double king, but if you like orange-red, more of that vibrant hot red, I think you would like double king. And let me know your thoughts on double flowers in general. Last year I grew a lot of rose lilies, which are double lilies. And then this year growing a lot more double amaryllis. I'm just not sure about them. I feel like I could go either way, but I think there's something captivating about the original single varieties. I'm not sure if that's because you can see into the throat of the flower, and I find something really moving about that for some reason. I don't know, but just let me know your thoughts on double amaryllis. But the Double King put on a great show. They gave about 3 stems per bulb, and overall I was really happy with the display. Now, remembering back to the first amaryllis that were in bloom in November, those were called Cape Horn. And these were a beautiful, vibrant pink amaryllis with a white throat. They bloomed really quickly. In fact, I was writing an article on creative ways to gift amaryllis, and I was basically showing in that article how to kind of make this gift pot where you put the saucer on top of the pot and then tie it all up in a bow, and then your recipient just flips the saucer over, and then the amaryllis is watered and starts to grow. But that article was kind of pressing in on me, and I was like, oh, I need a bulb that's gonna bloom really quickly. And since these Cape Horns came from Peru, I planted those, and thankfully they literally bloomed on the day that the article was due. But I loved those amaryllis. And the thing is that a lot of the bulbs that come over from Peru are a little less expensive usually than the ones from Holland. So if you like pink amaryllis that are single with something a little bit different, because it did have that white throat, definitely check out Cape Horn. That was really a winner. Now, following Cape Horn, I had one called Magical Touch Bloom. This is definitely my top 3 amaryllis to grow of all time. It's just so amazingly beautiful. My bulb only put up 2 stalks, and I was so sad about that. I was hoping she would put up 1 more, but it doesn't seem that way. But it's a beautiful, kind of a hot pink, but dark hot pink amaryllis with white edging. I think it has a white stamen. I'll have to look back at pictures, but oh, it's just so phenomenal. Do yourself a favor, get that variety. I think you'll absolutely love it. Another pink variety that I just fell head over heels in love with was Sweet Star. Sweet Star is this beautiful, delicate pink amaryllis. It's really a pastel pink and very gentle in nature. You could tuck this amaryllis anywhere into your home and it wouldn't kind of steal the show. When you plant something like, say, the Double King amaryllis, I mean, your eye goes right to that display. It's just so bold. But the Sweet Star is just so gentle there, sitting in the corner, that she really just captivated my heart. Just so absolutely beautiful. And I think Sweet Star is one that works really any time of year. You could kind of hold that bulb, plant it later, have it blooming for Valentine's. You could hold it a little bit longer and have it blooming for Easter. And speaking of Easter, another one I think is great for Easter is Apple Blossom. So, what was interesting about my Apple Blossom is it only put up 1 bloom stalk, and the bulb was really, really big. So what do you guys think happened there? I'm really not sure. I was really shocked to see such a large bulb only put up 1 flower stalk. But Apple Blossom is pretty common. A lot of people love it. It's a white amaryllis with pink streaking. Generally, the pink streaking is only on the top petals and not as predominant on the bottom petals. But I do love that one, and I think a display of maybe Sweet Star and Apple Blossom and maybe even Christmas gift, if you could get Christmas gift to hold that long, might kind of be a nice blend for Valentine's or Easter. Now, even though all these pink amaryllis are beautiful and worth growing, my #1 favorite in terms of a pink amaryllis is still hands down Gervase. And guys, is it Gervase? Is it Gervase? I'm really not sure. Sorry about that. Let me know what you think in the comments. but this is kind of like a candy striped amaryllis in pink. So the petals are pink, but it almost looks like the pink was painted on with watercolors, but then there's really strong streaking. Sometimes I see it noted that the streaking is red, and sometimes I see that the streaking is noted as dark pink. To my eye, it's a dark pink, but I could see how you could go either way on that. It's one of those amaryllis that when it blooms and it has so much character, it's just really exciting. You know, it doesn't bloom and it's just red or just pink. There's just so much going on, so much to look at, kind of like Flamenco Queen, that I think it just adds to the excitement of growing amaryllis. So now let's talk about some red amaryllis that are singles. And I hope this section will be especially helpful if you're just getting started, because if you want a red amaryllis, a lot of times the pictures of the red amaryllis look exactly the same. Or maybe you've bought a red amaryllis in a box and you're not sure on the variety. So I'm hoping to just point out some differences that I've seen in these reds so that you'll have kind of a clearer indication of what you're getting from that bulb. So the first one that I ever grew was your standard red lion. And if you buy amaryllis in a box and it says, "This will bloom in time for Christmas," or red Christmas amaryllis, it's probably either red lion or Olaf. Red lion is more of a just true red. You know, it doesn't lean orange or blue, it's just red. It lasts a long time, it blooms quickly. And the main difference I see between red lion and Olaf, or Olaf, once again, not sure on the pronunciation, is I think Olaf is just slightly more orange red. But other than that, they're very, very similar. They both face outward, so an outward facing amaryllis, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But those two varieties are very similar, and you'll often find them in a box. Now, what if you want to grow a red amaryllis for cutting and tucking into a mixed bouquet? I wouldn't recommend red lion or Olaf for that. Instead, I would recommend Magnum. Now, Magnum is right here. It's done blooming. It put on 4 bloom stalks for me. In a video, I put Magnum in moss. I did kind of a kokedama, and then after it bloomed twice, I just planted it up into a pot so that I could treat it as a house plant and then get it to bloom again next year. But the great thing about Magnum is that it's red. It's a little bit darker red, but it faces upward. So in terms of cutting, any bloom that faces upward is always easier to tuck into a bouquet. Any bloom that faces front, or even worse, down, is always hard to get into a spiraling bouquet. So if you want a red amaryllis that's a single, that's a little bit darker red, that's good for cutting, I would go with Magnum. Now, what if you're looking for a red amaryllis that is a showstopper? You want people to walk into your home at Christmas and say, "Whoa, what is that amaryllis? It's huge. What variety is that? Look at the streaking, look at the colors." Definitely go with red pearl. This is the first year I've ever grown it. I grew 3. I sent one to a girlfriend. She sent me a picture of hers and it was just as gorgeous. I mean, the blooms are so big. They're like as big as our heads. And the color, oh my goodness, the color is so beautiful. It's a very dark red, and I feel like it almost has black streaks in it. I'm not really sure how they say that it is online, but it's definitely dark red with dark burgundy streaks and what I feel like could only be classified as dark black streaking as well. And I think because of that, it makes it look richer and just more exquisite and original. And it's just so big. I mean, I couldn't get over the size of those blooms. That was probably the biggest head on an amaryllis that I've ever seen, was the red pearl. So definitely give that one a try if you like red. And I think the only other red variety I've ever grown is called Minerva. And Minerva is often found also in boxes at big box stores. It's a red and white amaryllis. I feel like that red also leans a little bit more towards the orange red. I have a question for you guys. Has anyone grown Spartacus? To my eye, Spartacus looks somewhat similar to Minerva, but does that red lean more towards a blue red? Could anyone let me know about that in the comment section? But anyway, Minerva is really a great bulb if you like kind of that candy cane look, that classic Christmas, and also you can usually buy Minerva for less than $10 a bulb. So a great budget-friendly Amaryllis bulb. So those are all the varieties that I've ever grown, and I saw a variety that I think both Erin at the Impatient Gardener and Yulia at Y Garden had also grown this year. I think it was called Exotic Star, and it was so beautiful and different and original and really kind of long petals towards the base of that flower. So I definitely want to order that one next year. But now let's talk about something not so beautiful, and that is my bulb that appeared to be infected with thrips. Let me show you some of these pictures. So the bulb, first of all, the bulb took a really long time to wake up. Since I was growing 3 red pearl amaryllis, 2 of them shot up leaves really quickly, started growing their bloom stalks really quickly, and this one just stayed dormant for weeks. So I was getting a little bit worried about it, but not that much. The leaves came out, the leaves looked fine, so that was interesting. You know, no kind of streaking or kind of sucking out of the juices like you see thrips do. But then when it started to form the actual bloom, and even when it was closed, I could see there was going to be a problem because I could almost see dotting on the outside. It was somewhat stunted. And then when it opened, it was just so sad, you guys. I mean, I don't know what else it would be besides thrip damage. Please let me know what you think. I'm really asking for advice here because I'm not sure. The first bloom opened, it looked like it had thrips damage. The next bloom opened, looked like thrips damage. And then the following blooms on that head, they didn't even really open. They just kind of held in that kind of half open stance and then they died. So, you know, that was definitely really sad, but to be honest, the saddest part, because, you know, bugs happen, disease happens, you know, I'm not really that worried about the bugs or the disease at the end of the day, but I was just really discouraged that I couldn't really find a lot of good information about, is this for sure thrips? How and where did the thrips happen at? And what do I do now with that bulb? I could find very limited information on this. So please, if you have experienced this or you know where I can find reputable information in regards to this, please let me know. So I really appreciate all your help with that. And I think this is the perfect segue into what I'm going to show you next, which is I have 3 red Lion Amaryllis in the basement in dormancy with their leaves on, but completely died down so that you can see that. But what I did with these Amaryllis is that I never put them outside. So ever since I've been growing and reblooming Amaryllis, I always have put them outside in the summer. I just followed what I saw my grandma did and it worked. But I think it was maybe a year or 2 ago, I had a viewer leave a comment that said she never puts hers outside. She just always treats them as a house plant and then puts them into dormancy and brings them back up. So I thought this was such a great idea because if you could skip that whole outside inside, you know, issue, then you're not dealing with all the pests outside. And in my case, I'm dealing with so much rain that it might actually save me a lot of time and energy. So I'm trying it. I put them into dormancy in December. So I'll probably take them out at the beginning of March. I want to give them like a 3-month dormancy period. And yeah, let's go look at them so you can see what their leaves look like in February. They're completely died down at this point, and I saw that was a common question. So I hope you can see okay down here, but I want to show you what it really looks like down here. It's usually completely dark unless I, come down here to do the laundry. So they're in darkness. It's about 50 degrees down here. It's not heated down here. Right below me, which I don't think you can see, we have a dehumidifier because we are so humid here. But basically, this is what these Amaryllis look like. So you can see at this point, the leaves are all shriveled up and brown, so I can just remove them at this point. I saw a common question was, when do I remove the leaves? Guys, I can only really share what works for me, but what works for me is to just let the leaves die down on the bulb, and then once that happens, remove them. So, can you hear Grace? So we can just remove them now. This one's not totally died down, but you know, it's fine. I'll go ahead. So guys, that's how they look in dormancy. I hope that helps somebody else to see what they look like and to see what I do with these dead leaves. And like I said, I think you could wait and remove them later when you pot them up, but I like to leave the leaves on and let them die back with the leaves on. Like I say, I don't really think there's one hard and fast way to do this, but that's the way I've always done it and it works for me. So let's see what happens with this experiment. And the last thing I really want to try to analyze better is, do cut Amaryllis actually outlast their planted counterparts? Because I did this with Sweet Nymph a couple times. So here we have a Sweet Nymph on the bulb still, and here we have some in a vase cut. And I did some very unscientific experiments in terms of, do the cut flowers last longer than the ones on the bulb? And what I consistently saw was, yes, they did. And I think there's a lot of reasons why this could be. The bulb is putting so much energy into doing so many things. It's putting on additional bloom stalks, additional leaves, it's putting down some roots, whereas the cut Amaryllis, it doesn't have to do any of those things. But as far as, do they really last longer than the ones on the bulb or not, I'm not sure. But this coming Christmas, I'm really gonna try to track that as accurately as I can here in my home, putting them in the same environment, the same exact light, so that I can really visually see the difference. So if you've done an experiment like this, or if you feel like cut Amaryllis do outlive their potted counterparts, please share that experience with us so that we can all learn together. So guys, I think this brings me to the end of the video. I want to wish you a great day and happy gardening. Bye!